Hi, folks. Hope everybody is doing well. Today, we're going to talk about some of the major failures founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs make that really bring their companies down. And unfortunately, you don't see these things talked about in seminars, leadership seminars, or books. And I wonder why people don't look at this way. But anyway, this is just another perspective. There's so many things can go wrong, but these few things, which I believe are the key things, and let's see how many we can talk about. I'll try to talk about 3 to 5 in the next 10 minutes. So the very first thing we need to understand, which CEOs make a major mistakes, is understanding the front end of the company and the back end of the company. And what I call as front to back integration. They fail to do front to back integration. So what does it mean by that? See, most companies really see their sales force as really the most important really function of their company, and they incentivize those people based on revenue or profit, but then they really don't really care what happens to the rest of the departments, and the rest of the department become really the cost centers. And we're going to talk about profit versus cost centers, but then they are the cost centers. So let's say if somebody buy something for 50 cents and sell for $1 and put 30 to 40 cents in processing, so they make 10 to 20% margin. Let's suppose their gross margin is 20%. If the gross margin is 20%, the net margin really is going to be less than 10%. That's not good. But then what can they do to improve their margin, their profitability? Because honestly, people should not be measured on revenue. Revenue is good, but has to be a profitable revenue, right? At the end of the day, if you are a profitable company, you have to have a profitable revenue. So in the typical manufacturing, that you end up spending about 50% of your revenue in goods, and then you spend about 30% in assembly and operations. So then basically you have another 20% left, and that's your gross margin, and then the net margin may be even less. So if you really consider the importance of the back end, and then you can understand that there is a front end of the company, just like you pay attention to the front end, you also pay attention to the back end. And then just by improving 10% in your back end, 10% improvement in back end, which is very possible. Believe me, I have done and I have executed 50 to 70% improvement in the back end. But let's say if you do 10%, and I can bet any day, then 10% improvement is no big deal at all. If you do 10% improvement in your back end, that improve your profit margin 25%. Means you increase your margin 1 quarter. If it was 20 cents, now it will be 25 cents. Mean basically it will be 25% improvement in your profit margin without really deploying any more dollar, any more incentives, anything. It's just how you recognize your backend. The first thing is recognition, and then you need to integrate front to back. If you want to know more about it, I will have a detailed videos on those as well. And then really the next thing is failing to turn cost center into profit centers. See, like purchasing is a cost center. Can you really make that as a profit center? Wow. If you can, let's say if you are spending $1 million in your purchasing department, and if you're if you're buying $10 million worth of goods, and if you really do 10% improvement, there go your $1 million. You will have no more cost center. But you can incentivize that they can actually save more than $1 million. Now it's a profit center. Or you can also do your bookkeeping and your incentives and also your costing model such way that these cost centers become profit center. There are many cost centers. I only give you one example. Many cost centers I have done to convert it into profit centers. So that's really the other thing which companies have to look into. Then the other thing is failure to empower teams and optimize time. There's so many people have so many meetings and they spend so many time in meetings, but without really clear goals and measures. If you don't have clear goals and measures and they're not documented, then basically you have a very little visibility and you are spending so much time in meetings, but then those meetings don't bring really those results what they should bring. And then also if you implement those measures and goals and document them, and you publish gain charts and goals and measures and milestones, what happens? Your meeting time will be far less too. So basically meeting times mean real dollars, all right? And then the fourth one is failure to train teams on building internal benchmark. Very, very important. How do you really train people to build internal benchmark? Never ever ask anyone to give you a quote without really having your internal benchmark. So what does it mean? It means you need to first of all develop a system, maybe a simple spreadsheet where the code should be submitted. I do not like codes submitted in a PDF. They're useless. They are 20-page long document of a code which basically have, sometimes they don't even have any detail. They're just a mumbo jumbo conditions. What you need to do is you need to develop an internal benchmark that how this product or widget will be built, which is sent to you. And what should be your cost if you would be in the building that widget, whether that is piece of software, whether that is piece of hardware. You need to envision that how is that built and learn if you don't understand that, or put somebody in your team to learn that, and then they develop that benchmark, and then they teach others how to develop that benchmark. Now when you are talking to your supplier, you give them that specially developed spreadsheet, and they just need to fill those cells. When they fill those cells, what's going to happen? That they basically are going to spend far less time on the coding, and then they're going to give you far more information. And at that time, it becomes a technical discussion instead of being tactical negotiation. By the way, there will be another video on 3-dimensional negotiation, where is it tactical, technical, and strategic. And you need to learn how to really make the discussion go from tactics to technical discussion. So it's more cordial, long-term relations, and then strategic discussions. Have less tactical, more technical and strategic discussions. And then last but not least, today what we want to talk about, the fifth item, is really failure to hire capable people. People most likely like to hire people who are likable. So there have been many studies done, and there's actually one study by Harvard Business School which talk about competent jerk and lovable fools. And they've done many studies where basically they ask lots of CEOs, what would you rather hire? And when they ask the question, they are amazed that batch over batch they brought people, and most people like to hire likable people instead of competent people. So you want to hire a lovable star, not a lovable fool. Lovable star would be a person who's likable and capable, but it's not easy to find. However, you can basically hire people who are competent. If the people are not competent and they're just only likable, very difficult to teach competency. So this is a struggle, but I would say that people have to pay attention and hire competent people in the team. And this is the reason Jim Collins say, first who, then what. Let's put the right people in the bus and then ask where to go. I don't believe that we always can do that. We have to live with what as well, because most middle managers, they don't have a choice to always choose their own people. They are dealing with what, even though they have to deal with who as well. So but anyway, I think the balance is trying to find people who are competent and likable, but at least have a little bit of both. Okay, if you don't get a lovable star, you get something in the middle who you can convert. All right, with that I will say these are the 5 most important failures CEOs and founders really don't recognize, and then they don't implement certain practices, and then when you don't implement those practices, companies go down, whether that's a very, very small company or very large company. If you don't pay attention to these things, sooner or later you will go down. All right guys, until next time, see you later.